It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Hardcourt Hunnies basketball podcast. How are y'all doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can y'all talk about how y'all knew that y'all wanted to start the podcast?
It was just, for me at least personally, I've always wanted to do something like this. I want to go into radio broadcasting, hopefully eventually. And I love NBA. Jade and I, we were part of this one. We were writers for a website called Belly Up Sports. And one day in our group chat for our website, we were starting to form podcasts. And so Jade expressed interest, and then there was another girl who started with us named Penny. She was interested too, and then I was just like, this is what I've been looking forward to do. And we liked the idea of having two women as the color commentators and then the guy being the moderator instead of the other way around with it. I'm Rachel Nichols. And then they're the other
one. So we ran with the three of us for a while, and then we lost Penny. We just kind of parted ways creatively, and she's running a women's sports website now. And TJ and I did guests for a bunch of months, including during the shutdown when we were scrambling for things to talk about. Fortunately,
that was such a hard time for me coming up with topics.
It was a hard time, and we were a baby podcast then. Like, we were only a few months in, maybe 3 months. The shutdown was in May, so we were like four months in, and we're shut down. So we went through that, and then when the bubble started for the playoffs last season, a mutual follow on Twitter mentioned the Hardcourt Hunnies tag and my personal tag as like must follow accounts. And this person is beloved on NBA Twitter. She's a single mom, but she's got 7,000 followers. And our current second Hardcourt Hunnie, Shay, was one of the people that followed us because of that tweet. And so I went and creeped her profile, and she was doing a podcast at the time about the NBA bubble. So I messaged Taylor. I'm like, I think I found finally somebody to join us permanently. And I told him, and we decided to have her on as a guest. And it took like 2 weeks for her to be available. But in the meantime, she and I talked on Twitter back, and we weren't even talking about basketball anymore. We were talking about everything. And it was pretty much just a formality. And she did the first episode, and we've never looked back. And we've been coming up on a year now, because it was around the bubble that she joined us.
Yeah, bubble when she joined us. We started though in January of last year of 2020. Yeah. So we started at probably the least opportune time.
The least opportune
the Last Dance really saved my butt for about 5 weeks though, because we just did a 5-part series on it, which you guys can go back and listen to. We got those recorded. So.
The archives are available on Spotify.
Yep. Anywhere you get your podcasts.
How did you come up with the name Hardcourt Hunnies?
So we were kind of batting names around, and oddly enough, my ex came up with that name. My ex now came up with the name. We really wanted to lean into the fact that, yes, we are women giving our opinions. We were very unapologetic about it, and we wanted to lean into it with the name. And then, so my ex came up with that. And I don't know if Taylor even knows this yet, because I can't remember if I ever told him. But the reason I really liked it was because of an iconic episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where he has that moment where you find out, hey, Will Smith can like really, really act his butt off. And when he talked about being a better man and settling down and having a family better than his father did, he said he was going to find a honey. And to him, that was it was a quality woman. So that's why when my ex came up with that, I was like, yeah, I like that.
I didn't know that, but that's
I wasn't
probably
sure if you did.
that is actually arguably one of my favorite moments in TV sitcom history.
Exactly.
So this is news for me too, Brandon. This is great. I'm learning things today.
It was funny because nobody had ever asked us the question quite that way, so I'd forgotten about it. And then Brandon, when you sent the questions, the way it was worded made me remember that whole thing.
Oh yeah, it made me realize like, Jade came up with this one.
TJ, what are some of the things that you cover in your podcast?
For me, some weeks it's a lot harder than others. Lately, luckily with like the playoffs and stuff, we've been able to get more topics into the episode. Like last week's episode, I think we got
we covered a lot,
like 7 topics in. Usually before I'd get about 4 topics in. But it just kind of some is just something I see on Instagram that just kind of sparks an idea with it. And
sometimes Shay and I will say, can we talk about blah, blah, blah?
And then they'll come up with the topic maybe. And then what topic they give, I build the questions around that, the structure with it.
Sorry, you guys might have seen me laughing a little bit. So it's basketball related, so I'm going to share it with you. My boyfriend and I have a full bracket. We're doing every round. We're picking. We're keeping track. And the Bucks and the Heat are playing. So he just walked in and gave me a note. I don't know if you can see it, but telling me that the score is 46-18 midway through the second for not the team I picked in this bracket. He felt the need to make sure I knew that right now.
Good job, Patrick.
I can't even blame him. I'd probably do the same thing. So
but other thing is like right now while my fiance and I are apart, I am staying at my parents' house and they have NBA TV. So I can just always have like, you turn it on and either my TV is on TNT, ESPN, or NBA TV because I was watching a basketball game last. So I'm always watching basketball too. Growing up as a kid, I was going online. I wasn't playing video games or anything. I was going to NBA.com and looking up stats. So every week it just kind of, lately it's been Instagram that's been really helping me out. We have this part in our podcast called Fast Break where I come up with 3 questions that Jade and Shay know nothing about. And a lot of that is stuff that I find from Instagram and Twitter and stuff that I might kind of twist it a little bit to make it more for them, more for us. But yeah, right now I just claw at where and just look around for whatever gives me inspiration for it.
Jade, who are some of the people that you have interviewed?
So Josh Jackson was our big interview that we got during the shutdown, actually, because we talked to him about how he stayed in touch with the team and what the team was doing to kind of stay together while basketball was down. I still kind of consider us a baby podcast, a baby show, because there's so many shows out there that like have hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and we have a long way to go, but that's the one standout for me. I did have an article that I wrote about Andre Drummond that when he was tagged in it, when we posted on Twitter, he responded to. So that was kind of fun too.
Wait, what? Really? I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. So when it was with Belly Up, and Andre Drummond declared himself the best rebounder of all time. And I was like, whoa. And I wrote an article about it and basically said, listen, you're a really great rebounder, but like the guys at the top of the list have 20 more rebounds a game than you. So, you know, and when the company tweeted it, they tagged him in it. And he responded, I think he said, thanks for the publicity. I still think I'm the best. Something like that, to that effect.
I did not know that. Well, there we go. We're getting that stuff. Oh, also Velveeta Cheese follows us. They've retweeted us a couple times. Don't even remember how that one came about, but yeah, we got that. Is our big interview is Josh Jackson, and one of our biggest followers is Velveeta Cheese.
Velveeta Cheese account is a big NBA follower though, so I consider that legit.
Okay, I just consider it, since it's a major company and they actually will retweet our stuff, so I'll take it.
TJ, who are some of the people that you look to interview in the future?
One person I've actually contacted, they said it a message or email back maybe next season with it, or maybe later this summer. The Timberwolves announcer, or the sideline commentator, her name Marnie Gellner, and she's phenomenal. Like, she's gotten to a point where she started off with like just Timberwolves, but I'm from Minnesota, and she does all Minnesota sports now. You'll see her, I mean, not so much our football team, since that's all on primetime television, but any of the local stuff. She's there for the baseball team, the hockey team, for the Timberwolves. I've been really wanting to get her, because I consider her, Timberwolves have never really had like a big three, except we had two commentators in her, Jim Pete, Tom Hanneman, and Marnie Gellner. Those were Minnesota's big three. And my long shot interview that, like, this is just a reach in the dark, is Ernie Johnson, because he is when it comes to being a moderator and stuff, Ernie Johnson is my idol. So he's the one guy I look up to. So like, that would be my long shot in the dark, someone I'd want to do. But we will try again next year with Marnie Gellner. And then I also want the Charlotte Hornets. They have a lot of women in their commentating and on the sideline reporting. And so I would like to be in contact with them a little bit too. I like to focus more on women in the NBA, because it's a trend that's happening more, and it's something that I think that needs to be focused upon a little bit more.
I also have Brittany Donaldson is an assistant. Well, she was an assistant for the Toronto Raptors, but now she is with the Raptors G League team 905. I have her like at raptors.com email. So now that season is over, I'll be reaching out to her to see if she said that she would record with us in the future when I spoke to her in the past. So that hopefully is coming up too.
Jay, do you only cover NBA, or do you cover the women's NBA too?
Anytime the WNBA intersects with the NBA, we will cover it. I would cover the WNBA more if I was more familiar with it. I don't know enough to do them justice. So I would rather leave that to the people that are into that. And it's hard for me at this point in my life to like learn a whole new few hundred people and players and stats and teams. And, you know, I don't have time for both right now. So if they intersect, great. And, you know, I like to see the WNBA covered by the people who are investing the time to do it properly.
TJ, do you cover the NBA G League at all?
Not terribly much. Like, just like the WNBA, if there's something that intersects with the NBA itself, we'll mention it. If there is a big name rookie that's going down, or there's someone that's really killing it that eventually gets pulled up, I will make sure that I'll mention it at least a little bit. But it's really hard to see G League games unless you are in the afternoon looking at NBA TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where if I can, great, and watch it and get some information, research it. But I have to focus more so on the NBA just because that's constantly changing news for the most part.
Jade, starting with you, what is something that you learned now that you didn't know before starting a podcast?
I didn't know how to run social media for the podcast. I understood that we needed to have a presence on social media. That was as much as I knew. And then when Shay came on board, she does that kind of thing as some of her work along with her writing. So she manages social media for a few companies. And almost as soon as she was officially part of the podcast, I turned the Twitter account over to her. And just from watching what she has done with it, with the Instagram, I've learned what kind of content to put together. I've learned how to use Canva for the graphics, all stuff, to put together our intros for our live shows. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff before.
TJ, what is something that you learned now that you didn't know before you started?
One thing was when I first started off, I would just jot down notes. And then I thought that I'd be able to just go through the entire stuff and be able to wing it and improvise it. And as I listened to stuff from when we started to stuff now, as I write a script, it's nothing super in depth, but it's something that I can at least look at that keeps the episode going. I might lose track in this script at times, so there will be points where I'll be like, I will comment being like, this is great podcasting for everyone that's listening and watching right now. But making a script and just keeping it organized with it instead of just like, here's a jot down note. Also keeping it typed up instead of I would write it down. And only once did writing stuff down ever help. And that was when we were doing our 5-part series on The Last Dance. And I know Jade saw the video that I posted of all the notes, crazy notes that just did not make sense. That it looked like a person, like if I put it up against the wall, I'd be putting lines together and connecting things. Did not make sense. So I needed some kind of structure. So making a script was the biggest thing, really.
Jade, what advice would you give somebody looking to start their own sports podcast?
Have a direction, know what your direction is going to be, and stick to it, especially if you are new to kind of a public speaking kind of thing. If you're nervous, keep it simple until you get comfortable with the speaking. And then from there, you can expand it. Like TJ had said, we're covering more topics now than we did when we started. And I think we're able to do that partially because we have a comfort level where we're really comfortable with each other. Even though we got along right away, it's just one of those things that gets better with time. So the longer we do this together, the more we kind of get each other's rhythms and, just be patient.
TJ, what advice would you give?
Just to remain open to ideas on how to do each week's episode that you do, because there are some weeks where I have no idea on what to do with myself for the episode, and so that's when it's real great to have people like Jade and Shay that are more than willing to give their 2 cents and help me out with it. That would be my biggest thing, would be just keep an open ear for everyone with it, especially if you have other people on it. Don't try to dominate it so much. Disperse the work with it, because if you're putting all on to one, then there's going to be people that are unhappy. So keep the work dispersed and be open to ideas.
That's wonderful. Jade, where can my listeners find, of course, the Hardcourt Hunnies on social media and podcast platforms?
So Hardcourt Hunnies on Twitter at HC Hunnies, and then Hardcourt Hunnies on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Thank you again, Jade and TJ, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Hardcourt Hunnies, the basketball podcast.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, TJ and Jade, for your interview, and best of luck.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.